So, but the China, so their favorite way of fighting is not necessarily a kinetic, direct conflict.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you think that China has already infiltrated into the U.S., the soil of the U.S.?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We are seeing, for instance, military-age males traveling without family members, pretending not to speak English, coming across our southern border. We know that some of them have engaged in some very suspicious activities. So, for instance, at the end of January, we saw these videos of Chinese migrants who were in the U.S. for less than 3 weeks, who had come across the border with no money and no identification, taking target practice with pistols and rifles. So that really suggests that these guys are soldiers and they're coming here to kill Americans.
Is the Biden administration doing anything about that?
Nothing visible. But we're Americans, so we have citizen groups are forming to track the Chinese migrants who are taking target practice, for instance. So these are Americans self-help.
Well, if that is the case, then isn't it possible that China does something, takes an action against the U.S. within the U.S. by deploying the soldiers, and then create a total chaos in the U.S. first before attacking the Taiwan?
Absolutely, that could easily happen. A year ago, we found that secret Chinese biological weapons lab in Reedley, California, near Fresno in the Central Valley.
Millions of mice.
Yeah, they found almost 1,000 mice that have been genetically engineered to spread disease, and at least, the official count, at least 20 pathogens, including the one for Ebola. So I doubt that was the only such facility in the U.S. So yes, they are planning chaos and worse on the first day of a war in Asia, in the United States.
Well, that is a very serious situation, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration doesn't seem to be paying much attention to it.
Gee. Because as I said earlier, logically, China is likely to take advantage of multiple wars happening in the multiple regions, and then that forces the U.S. to engage. So that will create a vacuum in the East Asia. But before that, they may start destructive operations within the U.S. first.
Yes, we're looking at what's possibly World War III, where we have wars in multiple locations. So yes, this is very much like a situation where the world is divided. You've got Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, maybe Algeria on one side, and the United States and its friends and allies and partners on the other. So yes, that's entirely possible that we are seeing the beginnings of the Third World War.
Yeah, I mean, that might even start within the U.S.
It could start in the U.S. So for instance, taking that lab in Reedley, California, even before the first shot is fired in Asia, the Chinese agents can be spreading disease around the U.S.
Yeah. Well, that may make better sense to them. Yeah, so attacking the main enemy, on the mainland.
Yes.
Yeah, rather than encounter somewhere else.
Yes, that's.
Gosh.
And it's not just the U.S. that's been infiltrated. We can assume that partners
everywhere,
in the U.S.
Everywhere, including Japan.
Including Japan.
Yeah. Well, knowing that type of situation, do you think the Trump administration will make any difference?
I think that it is very possible that the world is so far gone by the time that Trump is sworn in that maybe he might not make a difference. I just hope that we hang on day by day. But I think that Trump would prosecute the war more effectively than Biden. But the situation may be, a full war by the time that Trump takes office.
Yeah, so even if Trump is successfully re-elected and sworn into the White House, that may, do you think, cause even a civil war or more turbulence inside the U.S.?
Actually, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I mean, Trump is a divisive figure. There's no question about it. But success breeds unity, and especially at a time when the United States is under attack.
Right.
I think that Americans will be unified.
Well, yeah. If the U.S. is under attack, yeah. But China may take advantage of, or they may wait for the U.S. to start a civil war.
But Chinese communist propaganda is to emphasize that the United States is on the verge of civil war. Yes, there is a lot of divisiveness in American politics, but there have been, over the course of our history, it's mostly been divisive politics, and periods of calm, are really just sort of the exception rather than the rule. So yes, we're not on the verge of civil war. I mean,
okay.
Despite what people say, despite what Chinese communist propaganda says.
Okay, right. So it's really the race with time, isn't it?
It is.
So it still takes a while for Trump to be re-elected and go back to the White House. Yeah. So China has precious time, the window for them to act.
It does. And we have to be prepared for China to do anything at any place at any time, regardless of who is elected on November 5.
Okay, so even though some people or the conservatives say, well, obviously we have to deal with the internal problems first, especially those the borders already non-existent, lots of illegal migrants. But do you think you can convince them? They can be convinced that the looking inside only is not enough. So they have to be prepared for the war within and also outside, anywhere, in theory, anywhere. Do you think the U.S. general public will become aware of that?
I think that the U.S. general public will be. Unfortunately, our history is that until we're attacked, we don't understand the danger. So, for instance, Osama bin Laden had been talking about attacking the United States for a very long period, and we didn't pay attention until one day when he killed 2,977 Americans. So it very well may take an attack by China on America to mobilize American public opinion. I hope not, and that's the reason why I talk. But clearly we have to alert the American public of the dangers and of the urgency of the situation.
Okay, so what do you think the reaction, what kind of reactions are you getting from the audience when you talk about the danger of China?
I think the American people get it. I think that President Trump gets it. I don't know about Biden, though. It doesn't seem to. It's very interesting. About last August, he gave a private talk to a Democratic Party fundraiser in Utah, and he talked about China as a ticking time bomb. So I think that he has some sense of the danger of the situation, but his policies don't match what he said to that fundraiser.
Well, that could be potentially possible that there is going to be some time delay, and then the war happens when Trump is in the White House. That can be possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Gordon.
Well, thank you.
I trust that the U.S. is determined to prevail, and then as long as the U.S. is determined, they can deal with the multiple fronts that going to likely to happen. Yeah, one in Europe, one in Middle East, and then another in the East Asia, and possibly another one within the U.S.
And also in North Africa.
North Africa,
This
that's
is-
right. Yeah.
This is an exceedingly dangerous world, and we could very well be in the early stages of World War III.
Especially the North Africa's case, do you think that Russia is also involved?
Certainly, because Russia and China are very close.
Yeah.
And Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping see the world in the same terms, and they identify the same adversary as us, and they identify their interests in similar ways. So yes, they do form a partnership, which is extremely dangerous.
Yes, yes. Okay, all right. So I hope you'll have a chance to directly talk to President Trump about this danger, and we all have to be ready to fight. 'Cause,
Yes, we will have to be ready to fight.
yeah, it's extremely dangerous situation.
Yes.
Thank you very much for input, Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you.